at such a young age. You're an attorney, but they don't understand the story behind the glory, you know?
Yes.
The accolades that we see, the awards that we see. Where does your story start? And if you were to be given a chance to tell your story in your own way, you know, when they say that if the lion doesn't write down its story, the story will be always narrated by the hunters.
Yes, that's so true. So thanks for the opportunity again. So yes, born and raised in Johannesburg. My dad is Portuguese and my mom's Indian.
Portuguese?
Yes.
You speak Portuguese?
Well, I haven't practiced in many years, and I'll tell you why. Married a coloured man with the surname Van Wyk. So I always say I'm proudly South African. I've got all different flavours in me. From Johannesburg, I went to KwaZulu-Natal. So completed my schooling there and started my LLB. Always wanted to be an attorney from a very young age. I think my dad was very involved in politics and CNN. We watched CNN very often in our home. So it was a very intellectual environment, including my mom, because they got married during apartheid. And that obviously...
Wasn't that a risk?
Big risk, but having the mom that I did, an Indian woman that was intelligent, beautiful, but a go-getter. She did something with her life and, you know, worked her way up into management in Anglo-America. She had a nursing background. Now at the age of 70, she's reinvented herself. She started a business.
What?
Placement agency for nurses, etc. So, you know, that's the lineage I come from. But the story behind the story is that my parents' marriage didn't last. So at the age of 4, my parents got divorced. There was a lot of abuse that was going on. And that obviously cut the relationship with my dad. So I grew up in a single-parent home. And, you know, really watched my mom work very hard. I've got 2 older brothers. The youngest, and I'm the only girl. So having this in my mind, I understood that I need to make it happen for myself. I need to focus. I need to do something with my life. And that's the message that I interpreted from my mom. Not to be dependent on a man because the relationship obviously failed with my dad, and that obviously cut our relationship. And so from there, got a bursary to study at the University of Pretoria. Here I was baptized into Afrikaans culture. You know, in KwaZulu-Natal, there's not a lot of Afrikaans people. So came here, didn't really understand Afrikaans so well. Came to the University of Pretoria, no family, no friends, packed up what I had, came to stay at the res.
Was that when you were doing your LLB?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Here at University of Pretoria. Graduated in 2010 with my LLB. Made a few dean's lists while I was here. And
what's a dean's list for?
So that's over 75%, you know, your average for the year.
You're a nerd.
Okay. Yeah, you come to realize being a nerd has its place in society, but experience does distinguish the men from the boys, in a sense, or the women from the girls. So obviously coming here, getting used to the culture, the people, being in a bigger city, because, you know, growing up in Johannesburg, I was very sheltered with my older brothers, and now I was here by myself. So I needed to make decisions to say, listen, I'm focusing on developing myself rather than parting, you know, relationships. I kept all of that in abeyance.